In this video, we're going to look at inserting into a MySQL database. We're working with a small database of people's contact details. This is the fourth of 5 videos on MySQL as part of a longer set of videos on web app development as part of a course at the University of Strathclyde. Okay, today, as I said, we're going to look at inserting a new person into MySQL. The chapters of the book are as those. So what we're going to do is build on the same database as in the previous videos. So a reminder of that, if we go over to phpMyAdmin, you can see that we set up a phone book, and the phone book's got an ID, a name, an email, a phone, a Twitter account, and a Facebook account. Okay, you can click here to see the structure. You see the ID is an integer that's auto-incremented, and everything else are variable characters, strings. That's our database. We're going to create a form. What we did last time was we created a little menu that was generated from the database, and when you pick an item, it shows you that person's details. This time, we're going to create a little HTML form to add a new person. Okay, so let's start with an HTML form. This is an HTML file. We'll call it insert. We'll call it create new person record. And I'm going to, working within this single div, I'm going to have a heading 1. It says create a new person record as well. Remember, the title is what's shown at the top of the screen, and on the history list, the H1 is actually part of the page that's visible inside the page and printed out. Then we're going to have a form. The form, we need to fill in 2 details, if you remember. There are many other attributes, but we need 2. First one is the action, which is where the form goes when it's submitted, and that's going to be insert.php, which we've not written yet. And the method is, well, we've got a choice between get and post. This is going to change the database, so it should be a post. Okay, rule of thumb, if it's changing the database, it's a post. If it's just getting data from the database, it's a get. Okay, in the form, we're going to have name. I'm actually going to make this a paragraph. And inside the paragraph, I'm just going to take carriage returns or line breaks to split them up. I'm going to ask for the name. Then it's an input. Type equals text. Then the BR tag takes a new line. Now I'm going to copy that. Oh, I've got to give it a name. Okay, so very confusing. Name equals name. It means that the name value pair, the name bit, is actually name. Okay, what have we got in the database? We've got name, email, phone, and Twitter. Okay, so we may as well call them the same things. It saves us getting confused. Okay, email, phone, Twitter, and Facebook. And we can change the prompts as well. Oops. Okay, there's lots of ways of making this form slightly nicer. First thing we could do is we could put it in a table, and then at least the row prompts and the row of boxes will be aligned with each other. They won't be all raggedy. And then we can use CSS to make things look better, but this will do just now. And finally, we need a submit button. Let's save that and run it. I think it runs the index, which is that. Now I have to swap to insert.html. And there's our form. Ignore the wee icon, that's one of my add-ons. So we've got name, email, phone, Twitter, Facebook, and a submit button. If we hit submit, we get not found. Okay, so we've got to give it something to point at. So we'll create a new PHP file and insert. I'm going to copy my blank HTML over. No, it's insert.php. And here is where I'm going to rename it to. It's helpful to be able to tell these apart. So insert into database. Or reply or insertion done. If you're actually doing a commercial site, you would think at this point, well, what are you going to do when it's inserted into the database? Probably show the user it, or move on to the next screen. Okay, that kind of thank you, you've submitted it is not normal behavior, but it's useful for debugging and setting things up. Let's try and spell that correctly. Okay, then we better break into PHP here. Okay, in the PHP, I tend to find it's easier to get all the variables dealt with, first of all. So we've got 4 variables that we're passing over from the client. So if we go back to our HTML, that's not the right one. We've got a name, email, phone, Twitter, and Facebook. So let's extract all of them into variables called that. So $name equals $_post. It's the name element of that. Okay. Sometimes with browsers, it's not passed over correctly. So if it's left blank, sometimes you get that attribute isn't set in the array. So it's worth checking it. So what you can do is have an inline if statement saying if that's set, then the value, so if that is set, the value is that, else the value is the empty string. Okay, makes it nice and clean, so that after that statement, we know that name is either empty or it's set from the posting. So I copy that and paste it a good few times. And then go over here, copy email. You've got to be kind of careful when you're doing this copying and pasting that you get them all. It's also taking out that dollar. Oops. Paste, paste, paste. B, okay. So we now have, so maybe worth throwing in a little comment here. Set up variables from $_post. Excuse me. Next thing is to connect to a database. Well, not really. First next thing we have to do is check form is valid. Okay. All we really need is a name. Anything else, we'll ignore it. So if $name, so if empty $name, or if $name equals the empty string, then die. Okay, that's a rather brutal way of dealing with it. You just quit the action and give a message back to the user. That should be triggered now, so if we save that, go back here and reload our page, we get a warning because it's a post, so it's warning us that we might change the database twice. That's okay. Insertion into database, and we didn't die. Uh-oh. Was empty. Just check that function's behaving as I expect. Yeah. Oh, I'm seeing my PHP. That's bad. Right, put that back. And put the right tag in there. That's better. It looks coloured now as well. Refresh. Yeah, you need to provide a name. Phew. You get lots of warnings in NetBeans now about using variables directly. There are security implications of this that we'll talk about later. And we're meant to use braces, so we will do that. Okay, so now we have to connect to the database because we know we've got something. Now that we know we have enough to submit. Connecting to the database is exactly the same as we did when we did the listing. So if you remember, I'm using this include function. You just put your password straight in. Let's indent that better. So you have to have your server name, the username, the password, then you create a connection object based on those. If the connection's okay, if the connection's got a problem, we die. Otherwise, we carry on to do the insert. Create the SQL query and run it. Create the SQL query. Go over. The easiest way is to go to phpMyAdmin, go to the Insert tab, and put some fake data in. So my name is Donald Duck. I am ducky@disney.com. And I've not got my phone number is, let's make it a Glasgow phone number, which is a bit weird. My Twitter handle would be Donald the Duck. And on Facebook, I'm also Donald. Well, there I'll be Donald.duck. It's useful if these things are separable, so you can check them. In fact, it's easier if you actually give them names that you can identify. Okay, we know that's an email. Those we can identify later. Okay. We insert that. We're left with this. So this shows us the SQL that was issued. If we create the PHP code, it gives us an SQL string. We copy that, paste it in there. Can I pause this video a second? My son's just got home. Thanks, back. Okay, there's a problem with our, but I don't understand why. But all these backslashes have to get taken out. Don't know why phpMyAdmin puts them in. Oops. He uses a double quote at the beginning of the line, so you actually only need single quotes. You don't need to escape your single quotes. There is no harm in splitting this line. Okay. When you hit return on a line in NetBeans, it automatically ends the quote, does a concatenation, and starts the quote again. So that makes it a wee bit easier to deal with. make sure we get rid of all the backslashes. Just an irritation. Don't know why. Have Googled, haven't found out. That's our query. We now have to do the insert. So we have to run that query, which is much the same as we did when we did listing. We just do connection query. Except that this time the result is going to be binary. It's going to be true or false. So we can actually just use the result in an if expression. So if the con query equals true, then echo, remembering to output HTML, and we just say something like insert successful. Okay. End the paragraph, and the quote. Else, we probably want to die because something horrible has gone wrong. And again, we can add some error data with con error. Okay. And again, that may leak data about our queries, so we should only use that for debugging and get rid of it when the system's running for real. Save that. Browser, browser, browser. Back to our form. We throw in some data this time, so I'm going to. We've not filled in the data this time, but we've still got to provide at least a name so that the submission works. So I'm just going to put an S there. Hit submit. It says inserted successfully. Go back, browser table. So we've got row 3, which is the Donald Duck that we added in phpMyAdmin. Now we've got the Donald Duck that we've added from our code, from our PHP, so that works, okay? So if you remember, we set up the variables up here. We then checked one was valid. We then connected to the database. Here, we copied the code to insert Donald Duck, and then we ran it, so we duplicated that entry. Now what we can do is we can take these variable names and just substitute them in here. That wasn't right, that was right, and that was a Twitter account. And the Facebook was here, making sure you put the right variable in the right slot. Okay, and that substitutes those variables into the strings. Okay, save that. This, and I'm going to do Mr. Goofy. There is Goofy at disney.com. His phone number is 01 000 00001. His Twitter account is Goof the Dog. And on Facebook, he's Facey Goof. Facey Goof. Submit that. Insert successful. Go back here, click Browse to refresh the page, and there's Goofy. So he's now in our database. Success! Checking all the fields are correct, correctly lined up. If things go wrong, you can echo the strings back to check they're okay. You can usually work out what's gone wrong. And if something went wrong with the query, so if I change that to inert, which isn't a function, and we reload this publication, it gives us error on insert. You have an error in your MySQL, so it actually gives you quite a useful error message. In this case, it's just telling you you've got to check the syntax. Sometimes it gives you more help. Okay, let's put that back, and we've got a successful form. So we can now fill in a form and have it submitted to the database. There is one whopping problem though. Big security leakage in this. If I go back here and I go back, if Goofy02, or well, let's say Goofy Junior, we can submit him. That will go into our database fine. We have nothing in our database to prevent duplicate emails. We could maybe look for that and check. That email already exists. Are you sure you want to add it? But we don't just now, so it just gets added. So it's working again. But if I then come along with their cousin who is a Goofy02, the famous Irish dog, I'm trying to submit that, we get an error in our SQL, which is very strange because it was working. And what's happened is here. So up here, we've taken the name from the post and we're substituting it. So what PHP does here, and we can actually echo at this point, and I'll do it as a paragraph and bold. And this is a useful debug. If your fingers work, it's a useful debugging step. You can just echo out that string, because this is just a string that we're creating, that we're passing into the query. And we've saved it. So refresh that submission. So the query that we're going to send over is insert into AES02112, that's the database, the table, ID, name, email, phone, Twitter, Facebook, the values null, which allows the auto increment to work, so that's cool. Then Goofy02, Goofy at Disney, blah, 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 that's all fine, except if you look here, we're using single quotes to separate these strings out, and there is a single quote in that. So we have to protect against that, or else it goes into the database. That confuses the server because it thinks that the name field is ending at that point. Then it expects a comma, but it's got 2. What you're looking for is phpMySQL make safe, because that's actually a big security risk as well. And there is it's the second one of these. It's a MySQL, hang on. You can read W3 Schools if you want. Go to my real escape string. It gives you an error, a warning that you should be using the modern stuff. Remember, we're using the MySQLi stuff. That's the object-oriented version. We go there, we see that there's a function, real escape string, that takes a string and gives you back a string. And it's based on the connection object. Okay? That is our savior. But we have to move things around a wee bit, because what we want to do is wrap that around these so that we protect. Because I'm going to show you something worse. PHP is powerful. So here you can drop tables. So you can delete and drop a table, okay? And you do that in MySQL with the drop command. So if you think about it, if I go back to our form, instead of putting O2, I put O quote bracket semicolon. In my PHP, I'm going to disable the running of this because this would be bad. Then I can type drop table WAD test DB, semicolon. Submit that. And what you see here is insert into blah, 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 values name Goofy-O. That would fail with a syntax error. because elements of that aren't properly founded. But it then sees a semicolon, so it does the next table, which is drop the table WAD DB. Uh-oh, he's run the query. I didn't save that. Fortunately, I spelled it wrong. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because what it would have done is actually delete the database, because you can see it's trying to drop the table and it's actually giving me a syntax error for that. And that is a MySQL injection, okay, which is really nasty, so we have to protect against it. And the way of protecting against it, there's a couple of ways. The easiest just now is to use MySQLi real escape string. And that escapes things safely. For SQL, but it's actually based on the server. So the server gives the specification of what needs to be escaped. So we have to use the connection object, which means we just have to shuffle things around a wee bit, because up here we don't actually have the connection object. So I just have to move the connect bit to the top of the file, top of the script. Bum, 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 bum. And we've got a problem on that line, missed it bracket. Okay, so I've got a MySQLi real escape string that should be applied to the connection. Put the query back on. Yeah, still showing the query. Now what happens when we resubmit the form? Uh-oh, line 31, we've got an error. Line 31. Call to undefined method. Sure, that's correct. Oh, it's just that. So it's all these definitions are a bit confusing because there's the object-oriented way of using it and there's the functional way of using it. And I'd used the wrong name. Save that. Try again. Hey, insert successful. And now we should I've got my confusing thing there, and that will have gone into the database. Okay, so what's actually interesting is that has now gone into the database as that. So you could actually have a script running across your database or in your insert file looking for behavior like that, and you know that there's an attack, somebody's trying to break into your system. Okay, so you could maybe log their IP address. Not sure about the legality of that in different countries or locations, but you at least be aware that there's been an attack made on your system, because that is a big clue that people are trying to put semicolons into name fields. Okay, but it's all gone in fine. We're safe. There's no way of breaking into our system now. And that's us. We've inserted into the database and we've done it in a safe way. Cool. So in this video, if I can find my slide, we set out to build a sample built on the database from the previous videos. We created a simple HTML form and a PHP handler that stuck that into the database. Next time, we'll look at updating the person record.